Hi, and welcome to Stimming and Stilettos with Dr. Tasha. And as usual, I have brought you guys another great guest. Today's no different. I am very excited about this conversation, and I am looking forward to learning more and hearing your story. So today with us, we have Tatiana Castro. First, I want to say thank you for just being amenable to being a guest on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
I mean, listen, no problem. It's like no problem on my end. Okay. All right. So as we do for every single show, Tatiana, tell us your STEM story.
Sure. So my STEM story starts from when I was a little girl. Um, Honestly, I was just raised to be a lover of science through the vessel of nature, and that was largely due to just the way my family would spend our free time. So on the weekends, we'd pack up the car, go to the beach or the park. And I'm in Miami, Florida, by the way. So we're really in a lucky place to be when it comes to nature.
Yeah.
And just growing up in these spaces, spending positive experiences with my family just made it so much fun. So um, I would always be super curious about the plants growing around me, animals that would be in these different areas. And I will never forget the first time I learned about climate change. My aunt and I were walking to the beach, and you start off at like one end of the sand, and you make your way to the water. And she was saying, like pay attention to the beaches as you grow older because this is going to change. And that was, really profound because that made it super close to home, literally. Um, but also to have uh, like these spaces to engage in these conversations with my family really made it like a topic of interest. So I feel really lucky to have that seed planted in me at such an early age. And ever since like those early childhood experiences, I've been super lucky to know that this is what I want to dedicate my life to is the sciences, specifically botany. I'm a huge plant lover, and as you can see behind me, like plants are everything. And what I love so much about them is their relevance to our lives, not only in the products we use every day, but our cultures and the food that we eat. Like, it's something I'm really passionate about. So, I felt very fortunate to have gone to a high school where environmental science was a program of study. So that really kind of um, set me on the path to further explore this in my education. I got a bachelor's degree in environmental studies with a minor in museum studies. And then I got a master's degree in museum studies as well. So, what I really love about my career and the programs of study I was a part of is that it really set me on a path to not only understand the science behind everything going on in the natural world, but also how to teach about these things and make it really engaging. So, to kind of bring it to now, I am an educator, a facilitator, and a speaker that dedicates my career and my business, which is Teachings by Tatiana, to reconnecting children to the wonders of the plant world.
Okay, you said a lot there, and I have lots of questions. Um, so I love that I love that I get to talk to you, first off. Um, so botany is very what is the word? I've always been curious about it. So there's that. So now I'm like, oh, I can ask all these questions that I've always wanted to ask because I have my very own botanist here. Um, but at the same time, I'm really interested in like, so from that or those moments with your grandmother, um, or your aunt. Which
My
one?
aunt,
Your
yes.
aunt. Sorry, your aunt. I was paying attention. Um,
Yeah.
it it seemed that something inside of you was really like a fire was lit. Um, I want to talk about like what that was. So you were able to stoke that interest as you went to your high school, and then you went on to get your degree and everything. So I guess what this might be a crazy question, but like I've been fascinated by plants, but mainly like those exotic plants, the ones that sort of look like they could eat you.
Mm, yeah.
Because I keep thinking like maybe back in the day they actually did, right? Like we just don't know because the
Mm,
world has evolved so much. From the world of dinosaurs on up to now, where those rare flowers or plants and stuff like that are like really super expensive. Um, this one's not necessarily expensive, or maybe it is, but like I've always been fascinated by like a coconut tree or a palm tree because
mm,
I don't think I understand like the growth system of those two types of trees in particular. So anyway, again, I'm having a nerd moment. So
oh,
the
please
audience
go
is gonna
ahead.
have to they're gonna have to indulge me. But like I'm totally fascinated by them. Like every time I see one, I'm and a cactus. Like I don't get
Mm.
it.
Yes, they're so
I
cool.
don't get it. Like how do they work? I guess that's for me, it's just sort of like, how does it work? I don't understand.
Yes. Are you asking to like, do you want me to respond? Or you're just kind of like,
No,
okay, remarking. Okay,
I would like for you to respond. Hold on, just give me
okay,
1 minute.
okay,
Okay, I'm back.
sure. Okay, awesome. Um, well, that's like the $1 million question, isn't it? Like, how do these
Mhm.
plants work? Um, and there's so much that goes into it, but I guess the first thing that I think about when like even thinking of plants that are so different, like palm trees versus cacti, like
Yeah,
the plant world is so incredible because the the way that they somehow know how to adapt and grow in their own climates is an area of study. Biomimicry is a field where you can study other things in the natural world to kind of apply them to some kind of like human applications. And I think
yeah,
of that in just for a little tangent, I'll nerd out here. Um, but like, have you ever been somewhere where like you're walking in a field or like a grassy patch and like seeds stick onto your pants or
yeah.
shoes?
Hmm.
So like I don't remember the exact like timeline, but back in the day that happened to someone and they thought, oh, this is such an interesting kind of characteristic of these seeds that they stick onto your fabric or, dog's fur when you're walking. And when you look up close at those seeds under a microscope, you see that they kind of like little spurs or like hooks on them. And that was the inspiration behind Velcro. So you know how Velcro kind of like sticks together because like the material is kind of like woven in a way where it like kind of latches
Right.
together.
Hmm.
Um, that's an example of biomimicry in action where you look to nature and you're like, oh, how interesting, like, understanding some sort of characteristic and then by a lot of very smart people then kind of flipping it to our lives.
Hmm.
So that was just something that popped into my head thinking about like adaptations and such.
Well,
Um,
I
mhm,
think I wanna ask like, I think I'm more fascinated with how they, how like we were told back in the day that, pollination is the way plants give or get food, right? And then how they get fertilized, and then there's all of those things. And I guess I'm looking at a cactus, and I'm like, how does that happen? Though
mm,
I think I don't know, the in my mind I'm like, I don't see how this process, like I feel like it's a closed loop process, and
mm.
I don't understand how it happens with the cactus. So I think that's why my mind is sort of like I'm totally fascinated. But the
Yeah.
other part of it is that I know that there's this underground root
Hmm.
nutrients water system that is happening with all trees, plants, and animals, or not animals, but plants like this, that
Hmm.
I don't think that we have, or the layman, I'll just say, we have actually really thought about what what that world is like. That's also very fascinating to me as well.
Yes, it's so cool. Like, I love that example of thinking about like the underground root networks and the way plants can not only absorb the nutrients that they need, but somehow communicate too, which is really incredible. And I think that's just such a nice reminder of like there's way more than meets the eye,
Yeah,
because obviously we're not underground and seeing these reactions happen. It's chemical, it's something that we're not going to be able to observe, but we see the results of it, right?
yeah,
So I think that couldn't go for like anything, but I think in particular science, that's what always um kind of brings me back to my why, is just like getting curious and asking questions is something inherently scientific,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's always nice to kind of uncover what's going on.
I love that. So I yes, and like I said, I'm probably gonna have several more nerd out moments
Oh,
because
please.
those I think I don't know what tree it was, but I was actually reading a fiction book, and one of
Mhm,
the main characters was talking about there were it was sort of metaphoric for the relationship that that person was in, about how intertwined the root systems were between these two trees that were vastly different. They really weren't supposed to, it wasn't the work, the interworkings, they were basically
mm,
supposed to be like very separate, but because they were such in close proximity, when they did you know, they did a deep dive into like what's
mhm,
happening underneath the surface. They saw that because one had a really thin root system and the other one had a really deep root system.
mm.
But what they found is that one of the trees, I think it was the bigger one, was actually feeding the smaller tree from the
Oh,
roots.
mhm.
And they were totally fascinated on how that could possibly happen. So the guy was, of course, using that as a metaphor for, their love and all that stuff.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So I just thought, A, I wonder if that really happened. But B, totally got me thinking about the way in which a plant or a tree is fortified and nurtured, that we as human beings, the knowers of all the things, have don't
Mhm,
really have a clue about. So
mhm. Yeah, like I mean, we can do all the research and try to find all these like answers, but I also think there's a little bit of magic to it too. Of course, there are processes, and obviously, if it rains, a plant is going to absorb the water, but it's that just like natural phenomena that is just so entrancing sometimes, and also inspires people in their writing or art making too, which is always so fun.
I love that. Yeah. And I don't think we think about it enough. So, okay, so moving on to, I think I'm also fascinated with what does what does getting a degree in museum science or museum studies, it was museum science. What does that mean? What are we doing?
Yes, yes. I love that question. A lot of people also are curious. And I've kind of stumbled my way into it. Um, I've always been someone who loved to visit museums and especially gardens, um, just growing up as well. That's like one of my hobbies. And so when I was completing my undergraduate degree, there was a program, or a class, I should say, that was offered through the anthropology um, track.
Hmm.
And it was like an intro to museum studies. And I was like, well, I love museums and I love learning about things, so let me check it out. And that was like a crash course into like um, exhibition development, which was really neat. And it
Hmm.
was something I never really considered before. Like as a visitor, I've always been like really enjoying these experiences, like when you learn about something new and there's like stuff on a screen or words on a panel, and I could appreciate it from that end. But then learning all the work that goes in behind the scenes, developing exhibitions was like, wow, this is incredible because through my environmental studies program, I was already learning like outdoor education and how to teach like science curricula, and that was like the path I was on. Um, but then seeing museums in a different light really um, kind of made me have a light bulb moment myself where I was like, oh, wow, these are institutions of learning, of collections, of storytelling, and these are all things I love. Um, so, what's the connection here? So that class really helped me kind of think about what to pursue for my graduate degree, which was really neat. And I didn't mention this, but my graduate program was through Johns Hopkins University. They have a really awesome program. It is online, so if anybody's listening to this and is interested, you can do it from anywhere, which is
Mhm.
awesome. And what really caught my attention about that specific program was one course. That was the one thing that made me think like, this is what I want to do, or that select that school. And it was the class was called Living Collections. And so living collections are things like gardens, things like zoos, aquariums, right? And these are all museums in their own way, but they have living collections. So the stuff that's in them are alive.
Mhm.
Um, and that's what really drew my attention because I already knew I was a garden lover. I already knew I loved the sciences. But then I was like, where's the overlap for me here? So that was literally why I chose that specific program. And so then I tailored the rest of my coursework to kind of fit into like the interpretation, public speaking, education, all while learning museum stuff. So, kind of besides those special classes I took, um, there's kind of like the basics of exhibition development where you learn kind of all the behind the scenes of making a plan, developing a story, measuring exhibit panels so it actually looks what you want to in real life. And um, that was really cool, but not quite my thing. Again, I'm more of an educator more than anything else. So the storytelling piece was what really drew me. And another course I loved was I'm forgetting the name of it now, but it was like something along like cultural resources or something. And so in that class, we also did a lot of work on understanding museums that are specific to cultures, like um, the Museum of the American Latino in DC, the American Indian Museum. There's a really great one called El Museo del Barrio in New York. And that was really cool as well because I didn't mention this earlier, but I'm Colombian American. And growing up in Miami, my culture was really important to me. And I was really thankful to be in an area where that could be very nurtured.
Yeah.
And so that was something I really found very moving in my coursework was to learn like, yes, you can teach a lot about objects and plants and, history, but then um, to also understand there's like a personal cultural piece that can
Yeah.
come into play as well, really revolutionized my thinking and informs a lot of the way that I educate now too.
So I love, love, love that. And I think so I want to ask, this is what I'm going to ask. When you're thinking about a museum, or is there I'm sure there is, so I'll just ask it, but is there a psychology around, like, I guess, exhibit placements in a museum?
Definitely. So that was part of the coursework is kind of understanding the way that people learn and what are different ways to kind of share that information, whether it's something tactile or like a video, or even like a docent talking and kind of like having that personal connection to share that information with you. Um, there's so many ways to kind of reach a person. And that's another thing that is so it can be challenging, but also the fun part of understanding how to teach people informally. And by informally, I mean like outside of a classroom,
Right.
is people have a lot of motivations when they come into these spaces. Are they looking just to kill some time? Are they here on vacation and they really want to like learn about the specific area? Or are they on a field trip and they have a report that they have to do after the fact? Like everyone has different motivations. So that's something really interesting to take into consideration as well. It's like not only like how are we going to make this interesting for kids and adults and everyone else, um, and kind of understand, okay, here's like the easy 5 minute version if someone's just looking for an introduction, or if someone wants to go into depth, what can we offer them? So it's like there's a lot to consider.
Wow. There's a part of me that, I feel like I'm always an educator, once an educator, always an educator. But I'm not sure that like I fully took it in, like
Mm.
the whole full scope of what goes into an actual exhibition at all. I love it.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Once you start digging deep, it's like you're on unwrapping layers of information.
So, what is your favorite part? If you had to choose out of all of the things that having a teaching mind, going into museums, first as a someone who is a speaker and educator, but someone who has the understanding of what it actually takes to actually put together an exhibit. Um, what's your favorite part?
Oh, wow. Hmm, that's a great question. I think my favorite part is creating that story for people.
Mm,
And that can take different forms. I mean, there's the actual like on a Word document, here's the introduction, then so on, like forming that story. But what I also find really interesting is in the case of exhibits, for example, is that you also have to tell that story and make it flow through a physical space. So you
yeah.
need to kind of think about where are people going to walk? Are they going to go left or right? And then how do you kind of continue sharing information as they, you know, uh, explore an area, right? Um, so to be creative and sort of work with whatever boundaries you have of like, I mean, I've seen so many different kinds of exhibitions where maybe it's more digital or they have like a lot of physical sculptures in the space. So then that means the layout is going to look different. So there's so many aspects to take into consideration. Um, but ultimately, you want your learners, your visitors to come through at least getting one piece of information.
Yeah.
So as long as you kind of hit them, like again, going back to the motivations, wherever it kind of like resonates with them the most, you've done your job.
Wow. So I think because that hits me in a place as an educator. So I am really thinking about like what is it that I want the learners to know, think, or do by the time class is over. And so I'm thinking that as a museum or an exhibit in a museum, you probably have the same sort of idea. These are the things that this is the information we want to present. Here's how we want to present it in the space that we've been given. And so that will, has the potential to talk to all different types of learners, um, but they're all getting the same information, just maybe in different ways, and making it interactive and fun and creative. And I love it.
Yeah,
I feel like I can't wait to go to the museum because I'm going to look at it with new
mm,
eyes.
I love that. That would be
Yeah.
super exciting. Yeah, once you kind of understand the behind the scenes portion, it's like such a cool way to kind of consider like this space was designed on purpose for me to learn something.
Yeah. Oh, so to that end, what is what is something that you've learned um, in all of your travels and study
Mm.
and those things? What is one thing that you've learned that has surprised you?
Oh. I guess something that was a nice surprise is learning how much people are willing to help. And that
Mm,
could go in so many different directions. Um, and I guess for my story, it starts even as early as like applying for grad school. That was something that, I'm very proud to say I'm the first person in my family to have a master's degree. And that was a very daunting process. But I was so lucky to have mentors in my life that I literally went to and I was like, where do I even begin? How do I
yeah,
do this?
yeah,
Um, and then even as I've continued in my career, I've been very fortunate to work with people who are also so helpful where, if there's something I don't understand or there's an opportunity I'm interested in, I'm like, how do I get to that next level for myself? Um, they've been willing to lend a helping hand. And I think it also comes back to even just being willing to ask, because that was my kind of what's the word I'm looking for? The hurdle I had to overcome personally first
hmm hmm
before I could even know people would be so helpful and do what they could to help me in whatever I needed. I needed to recognize in myself that it's okay to ask for help. And
Ooh,
I
yeah,
think that's something that so many people can relate to. You're like, I'm gonna figure this out on my own. I can do it by myself. And um, you know, not to diminish the power that everyone has, but it's also, not realistic all the time, so asking for help is totally okay and you'll find the helpers. I think of Mr. Rogers when I say that, but it's so true. Like there's always somebody willing to kind of um, either help you in whatever you're looking for or even connect you with someone who
yeah.
can help you in whatever it
I
is.
don't know. I agree with you 100%. So I just
Mhm.
think sometimes we think in our way of thinking that asking for help is like we're putting someone out, we're asking for extra, or that, for some people, it's that it's easier to do it. It's just easier to do it myself, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to allowing someone else's genius to enter.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Yeah, we all have something to offer.
Yeah. Yep. And the other thing is that some people, like I've come to learn that some people are just waiting to be asked, right? For
Yeah.
them to step up to the plate and like blow us away with whatever their thing is, right? And you're just like, wow, I didn't know this before,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
That's so important too. I think that hit home for me because I really come alive as an educator, but I am very introverted.
Mhm.
So it's like when people also ask me in those moments, it's like, yes, I can help you. Like this is my time to shine. So I just hear you. Like there are some people that they're like, you don't know what they can offer you. So it's always good to just pick their brains.
So now maybe I have an unusual question, but I want to bring it back to, you know, flowers and plants and all of those kinds of things. But I mean, in the sense of if you could compare yourself, or yeah, we're going to do compare yourself. What is the plant or flower or tree that closest resembles who you believe yourself to be?
Wow, that's a great question. Hmm. Well, I think this is very fitting. Um, so the flower that you see behind me and that's in my logo right over here, is called the bougainvillea. And they're such cool plants. And maybe I'll give you a little pop quiz because I have this picture behind me. Let me see if I can get my finger over here. Okay, so like if we're looking right here, um, at this plant, what do you think the flower part is? And maybe this is kind of a little hint, but it's
Ooh,
not that obvious.
is it the white part? Okay.
Yes, yes, you got it. So yes, so like the white little structures right here, that's actually the flower. And then all the pink stuff that is really like, eye-catching and a little bit bigger, those are modified leaves called bracts.
Wow.
So what I love about bougainvillea is kind of similar to what I was saying before, another example of there's more than meets the eye. Because people like I've just heard kind of anecdotally, and even when I teach in my classes, that they'll say, "Oh my gosh, look at the pretty pink petals," and I go, "They're actually leaves." The flower is the white center part, right? And that's what pollinators are going to visit to get their nectar and
Hmm.
start that whole process of pollination, like you were talking about. Um, so I guess in some ways, like I did kind of choose bougainvillea as my logo, sort of for that like underlying story behind it is how there's more happening there than just like at first glance. So I love this plant in particular for that reason, and it's also meaningful to me because it is a part of my business. But yeah, I love bougainvillea.
I love that. So tell us more about teachings with or teachings by Tatiana. Sorry.
Absolutely, no worries. Um, so Teachings by Tatiana was born 2.5 years ago at a very interesting point in my career where I had made a departure from the museum and garden space, which I had been in for quite a few years previous. And I loved working at these institutions, as I've shared. Like, these are my favorite places to spend my time, and also to work in them is really such a privilege. But I came to a point in my career where I decided to pivot and explore other nonprofit science work.
Mhm.
And so that gave me the perspective and also kind of bandwidth to pursue entrepreneurship. And that was also something that was very um, new. Like, I've never started a business before, never taken any business classes, but I just had such a huge belief in myself and my experience to bring plant education to my community um, in my way, under my own uh, purview, that I was like, let me try this for myself. So, like I said, I've been in business for the past 2.5 years, and I've been doing a mix of a few things to bring my education out there. Um, like I said, I'm a facilitator, so I do a lot of workshops to teach people about plant life in like hands-on interactive ways. And what I love about those experiences is, especially if they're in person, I love to incorporate art making because that's an opportunity to be creative, to share stories, and really make that learning a little bit more memorable. So I love doing that. I'm a speaker, as I mentioned, so I love talking about the work that I do and sharing this information on a larger scale. And I create a lot of content and curriculum for myself and other organizations, which has been such a fun way to collaborate with like-minded organizations and individuals who see the value in the natural world, and I'm able to just kind of make their visions even stronger. So it has just been such a wild ride, kind of balancing this. And I
Yeah.
also work a 9 to 5 still. So, it's a lot to juggle, but I would like to also share that I've learned a lot about myself in the process, which is something I was not expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So, if anyone listening is interested, they have an idea and they want to make it a reality, it can be so fulfilling, not just because of, your mission, but also all the ways you can grow because of it.
Oof. Love all of that. Um, okay. So if a person is looking for you, where can they find you? And if you have any events that are coming up, please tell us what they are.
Sure. So, I'm based in Miami, Florida, so a lot of my in-person activities are currently happening here, but I am open to traveling wherever someone may want me. So I'm just putting that out into the universe. Um, Online, my website is teachingsbytatiana.com. That is also the handle on social media. So I'm on YouTube, Instagram at Teachings by Tatiana, where I share more of my education and things that I have going on. You can also find me there. And then as for stuff I have coming up, nothing currently in the works. I am hoping to have some events coming up for Earth Day. I know that's coming up in a few months, so that
Mhm.
will be really exciting to bring out to the community. So if anybody's watching this in my area. As we approach April, stay tuned. But throughout the rest of the year, I am working to bring more education in person and online. So the best way to kind of stay updated and see what's going on would be through my socials.
Love it. Okay, so as I say again on every show, all of her information, all of Tatiana's social media that she sends to me, and her website will be in the show notes. So guess what, folks? You have to read. You got to read the show
Yes.
notes. So read the show notes, people. All right. So last question, and this is the question that we ask, or one of the questions that we ask every single guest on every single show, and it is: if you could travel back through time and just have a convo with your younger self, what advice would you give her and why?
Uh, you're asking such great questions. Um, wow. What would I say? Well, I think I would tell my younger self to keep believing in herself
Mm,
because that's what got me here is just staying close to my passions, my values, and recognizing my inner power in that sense was huge. And I don't think I knew that then, but I know it now. And I would also say, hmm, I've always been a big believer in like writing stuff down makes things like maybe come to fruition, but also helps you better understand what it is you want to do or like, emotions behind, stuff that's going on. And um just to tell myself to keep up that practice because it still is something that I do today. And I think that leads to a lot of my success is like having that me time of like reflecting on how far I've come or what I have ahead. And just kind of having that moment of gratitude and reflection is really important. So just to keep that up in general, just to keep my sanity and my purpose and my drive, that's a really powerful practice.
I am in love with that response. Um, yeah, I will just leave it there.
Great.
I won't
Yeah.
add anything to it. Okay, so this concludes today's episode of Stimming and Stilettos. But first, before we log off or zoom off, I really want to thank you for just, oh my gosh, you have opened so many eyes today. You have taught us a lot um, about about museums, about botany, but in general about life. You know, through the way in which you view the world. I got to tell you, I've really enjoyed this. I was able to nerd out just a tiny bit, um, but I find for me, I find what you do, who you are, to be totally fascinating, and I'll be watching, and I am going to be a vocal cheerleader for you for moving forward. Just FYI for you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Natasha. And same here. Like learning about your story was so incredible. And I'm so happy there are people like you in this world trying to uplift other voices. So I'm just honored to have you as a cheerleader myself.
Whew, okay, before it turns into a love fest. All right. All right, you guys, this concludes today's episode of Stimming and Stilettos. And as always, I want you to do two things. One, keep yourselves well and safe.